Greetings, all. Welcome to Aquarian Diary. I'm your host, John Irving. It is June 7th, 2023. The following is a bit of a rant. If you're not in the mood for that, you may want to set it aside for another time, or skip it. But I want this on the record. There's a topic that has been stewing within me for weeks now, and I've kind of been biting my tongue about this. I'm not even 100% sure why. I think it's because it's such a big concept that I'm not entirely sure how to articulate it, or that if I really sat down and tried to write out a script or something, it would be very long and complicated, and maybe that was overwhelming me. And then I listened to something just prior to recording this that really lit a spark. And then I thought, maybe I'll just wing it, just ad-lib it, and take a shot at articulating this. It's woven through all of my episodes, all of the work that I've done here on this channel. And it is so important. And it's so clear to me. It's always been clear to me. It's been clear to me for decades. And that it is fundamentally that the way our current civilization functions is completely unsustainable, fundamentally unsustainable, right down to the core. And don't jump to conclusions. I'm not talking about something like communism as an alternative. I'm not. I don't like top-down, hierarchical, rigid structures like that at all. That's not me. But if we look at what's happening in the world and what's been happening in the world, what is staring us in the face? Look at this climate catastrophe, for example. We have wildfires burning across Canada right now that are out of control, that are unprecedented, setting records all the time. That's just one example. Think of the droughts, the heat waves. What this all points to, very clearly, is that the way we have been doing things is pushing us over the edge. The last time that carbon dioxide levels were where they are now, the world was 7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer, or 4 degrees Celsius warmer. Scientists have been warning us not to exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. What this means is that capitalism, as we know it, is systemically, seriously flawed. The whole paradigm of people trying to profit at the expense of others or at the expense of the environment on which we all depend is completely destructive and unsustainable. 4 degrees of warming sends us down a path to extremely catastrophic global outcomes. This episode is not about the environment. It is simply to point out that our economic system, this paradigm of some people being rich and other people being poor, dog-eat-dog kind of approach to reality, is completely systemically flawed, defunct, corrupt, and dangerous. If we look at the kinds of people who are being put into positions of power right now, whether it's in the United States, like the former guy, these people are dangerous to democracy. They want to install some kind of fascistic or authoritarian system of governance, and we all know how that has played out historically. It has been very, very bad and very, very dark. That whole paradigm is corrupt, and all of us are guilty to some degree of playing into that because we feel like it's the only option. We have to go out and perform these tasks, work for these corporations, play into the system, because that's what we need to do to survive. Whereas, as I have argued before, there are more than enough resources on planet Earth for everyone. So we have a choice. We have, on the one hand, calamity and catastrophe, or we have radical change and shifts, not just intellectually. We need a completely different paradigm. And that is what this age of Aquarius is all about, which I have talked a lot about here before. So we need to think differently, and at some point, we need to abandon this system that we function within because it is completely corrupt and defunct. And like I said, not only that, it actually represents an existential threat to our survival and the Earth's biosphere. We have instigated by human actions the sixth great mass extinction on the planet. It could not be more clear. This is not normal. We have to go back 65 million years to encounter similar events. It couldn't be more serious. It's kind of like the system is designed to not be fixed. It's designed so that the corruption is protected and persists. It has been gamed to the point where it is unsalvageable. There's many people like me and like many of you who are a bit on the sidelines screaming and yelling, going like, we have to do something, we have to do something. And incremental changes at this point are entirely inadequate. We can't just make small changes. The levels of emissions, for example, keep going up and up and up every single year. The situation just keeps getting worse. It's not getting better. Despite years of advocacy from environmentalists and scientists and other people who are well informed and not living in alternate realities. And there's another element to this as well that I have to talk about. On the physical dimension, we have a lot of people who are stuck in these very negative paradigms. Very low-level consciousness, very egocentric, narcissistic kinds of behavior. They don't care about what happens to other people. They're insensitive and cruel. They want to inflict harm on other people, that kind of thing. The same thing is true on the non-material dimensions. I'm not talking about the higher spiritual dimensions. I'm talking about on the astral level. On the astral level, there are billions of beings who are just like us in a lot of ways, except they're not in physical form. These are the kinds of spirits that are often trying to influence people or feed off their energy and so forth. Just like the forces in our physical world, the people who are trying to drag us back to some mythical, non-existent 1950s, there are beings on the astral level who do not want us to evolve either, because they depend on the status quo for their enjoyment, pleasure, sustenance, or whatever. Don't kid yourself. I had direct personal experience with these recently because they don't like what I was doing with my intentions that I was putting out there. It threatens the status quo. And there's different levels of these kinds of beings. Some of them are more powerful than others, but a lot of them are just run-of-the-mill a-holes, just like you have in physical reality. So there's a whole dimension of beings who want us to stay more or less in the current state of affairs because it suits their purposes. Just because a being isn't incarnate doesn't mean they're highly evolved. Like, this is just lunacy to think so. People have to be very careful when they're communicating with non-material beings. Some of them are not well-intentioned, but they're very good at pretending to be well-intentioned. I deal with this kind of stuff constantly because of the kind of work I do. But I also have a routine that I do every day that keeps me clear and basically clears out those kinds of energies. I suspect that people are being influenced in this way all the time, and they don't even know it. I'm a target because I'm out here talking about this kind of stuff. Trust me, they do not want us to evolve because they will have to change or leave. It's that simple. So it's not just happening on the physical dimension. There is kind of like a war for the outcome of Earth. And anyone who is legitimately trying to move the ball forward in a positive way is going to meet resistance from these kinds of energies. I have zero doubt about that. I've experienced this for my whole life. And they're very sneaky. They will undermine you. They will undermine people's thoughts about you. They will undermine other people's actions towards you because they are aware psychically, or what we would call psychically, about what's going on and what the implications are in more ways than we realize because they're not confined or restricted to physical reality. So having said all that, the main point of this is that there is a tremendous resistance to change that wouldn't be occurring if they weren't under actual threat, if the changes that are in the cards potentially actually mean that things are going to significantly change. If that wasn't true, they wouldn't be stressed out about it, but they are. And I had direct personal experience with this recently, like I said, with their anger and resentment, if not fury, about this kind of stuff. My attitude is like, F you, go somewhere else. You don't have the right to manipulate people, to deceive people, to misinform people, to spread lies, to cause harm to other people. If you want to do that, go do it somewhere else. Get the hell out of here. Go. It's unethical and it's immoral and it's wrong. We have to have that kind of attitude. We can't be wishy-washy. We can't be sitting on the fence. We can't be deluding ourselves with ridiculous conspiracy theories or engaging in wishful thinking or spiritual glamour, all these kinds of things I've talked about here. We have to get real, and basically we have to acknowledge what is staring us in the face, that the current status quo is a complete disaster. It's the biggest disaster in all of human history. What we have done to the planet in a mere 200 years is completely unprecedented. Completely. In the paleoclimatic record, this is completely unprecedented, and it's black and white. There's nothing to debate. You just look at the evidence. You don't even have to read the press. Just look at the evidence. It's staring you in the face. It's clear. It's indisputable and irrefutable. Anyone that denies this or says that it's okay is either profoundly ignorant or misinformed, conflicted, delusional, or lying. The dark side lies. At the very least, they should get out of the way and let the adults take charge. I have used the phrase here before that the medium is the message, and the medium is planet Earth. Just look at it. And the economic system is absurd. Why is it that the biggest assholes on the planet are billionaires? And you know who I'm talking about. Clearly, there's something dramatically wrong. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. The system is completely ass backwards, and incremental reforms are insufficient at this point. If there are hundreds of thousands or millions of people living on the streets, clearly there is a very serious problem with society, especially if at the same time there are a handful of people hoarding vast amounts of wealth while this is occurring. We should not be celebrating psychopathy and sociopathy or antisocial behavior. These people have mental illnesses. Again, we have everything completely ass backwards. As I have stated here before, we promote the people with the absolute worst characteristics into positions of power, authority, and privilege. And as I have explained, this is resulting in an existential threat to life on this planet. Could it possibly be more stark, dramatic, or clear? It is explicitly self-evident. We have to stop promoting and endorsing this deadly, vicious, virus-like paradigm. I mean this quite literally. This is the thing about paradigms. People assume that they are fixed, that it is real, that we can only exist within it, that there is no alternative. But that is a deadly trap. It is self-reinforcing. We cannot see it or correct it from inside. This is where spiritual practice comes in because it gives us this perspective. Some of us came here to be way showers. We need to start dreaming a new way of being into reality. We need to populate the collective consciousness with a different paradigm because it will grow and spread. We have to use our creative powers and imaginations and our will to birth a new reality because we have free will. Everything is not predestined. That is a Piscean age belief that things are predestined and not within our control. It is not true. So it is up to us to be proactive. Popular culture, especially American culture, which dominates film, movies, the media, and things like that, is saturated with these negative, destructive stereotypes. There is a barrage of propaganda that promotes and sustains this catastrophically destructive paradigm and spreads it around the world. Why? Because it sustains and enables the wealth and privilege of a few. It allows this catastrophically destructive paradigm to persist. When we engage with or consume this paradigm, we are endorsing it, consciously or unconsciously. This is what it means to be awake, is to be aware of this very subtle and pernicious phenomenon, and to exercise our free will consciously and deliberately. Hence the very blatant anti-woke assault that is occurring right now. Being awake is a threat to the status quo. Now, the only way we're going to make the kinds of changes we need to make is that if we get active and engaged. The regressive forces right now have an all-out assault underway against us and democracy. They're attacking on multiple different levels simultaneously. And people are sitting back and looking at it and commenting and scratching their heads. We need to go at this hard and relentlessly, and we need to take off the gloves. But that means people need to be engaged, they need to vote, they need to express their opinions, they need to demand changes, they need to go out and protest. The young people have to wake up before it's too late, and so on. Soon, Pluto will go back into Capricorn through early 2024, so we're probably going to have to go back and deal with some of the crap we were dealing with during that whole cycle again. But then, in 2024, Pluto moves further into Aquarius, the energies start to settle in more seriously, and progress will start to occur much more rapidly. But we need to take off the gloves. Democracy is at stake. The future of the planet is at stake. The future of civilization is at stake. The future of our species is at stake. This is a war, and it's not just on the physical dimension. So you need to protect yourself from all the negative influences that do not want you to wake up, that try and undermine your relationships, or who discount valid sources of information and truth, and so on. The people in the fossil fuel industry who have been deliberately promoting disinformation on this topic for decades and blocking or undermining legislation which would have mitigated this catastrophe should be prosecuted with crimes against humanity. This is magnitudes worse than anything else that has happened in human history. This will severely affect hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people, if not everybody on the planet. All of the assets and profits related to the oil industry should be seized and dispersed to those who are going to be dealing with the implications of this for many generations. Their own research indicated decades ago that what is happening would happen. I get very worked up about this because I have been talking about this for many, many years, and I can name countless occasions where I was brushed off for being too fantastical, alarmist, too negative, or whatever, and now everything that we were warned about is actually happening in real time. So that's what I wanted to say. I'll put links in the episode description to any related content, and if you're interested in a reading with me, I'll put a link to that as well. The June 2023 mini readings that I do will focus on the transit of the North Node through Aries, which is coming up starting in July. That's an 18.6-month transit. It's now going to cost $39, and people who are paying members of my YouTube channel will have the price of their monthly membership discounted from that price. See the screen. Take care, all the best, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.